Pros, save more on the materials you need to get the job done, inside and out, at Lowe's. Right now, get 10% off in-stock Trex Naturals decking, now available in more styles. Plus, get 15% off select custom entry, interior, and storm doors. Then, we'll deliver it all straight to your job site to help keep your jobs moving. Get the brands pros trust, priced right, and ready when you need them. Our best lineup is here at Lowe's. Valid through 5/27. While supplies last. Selection varies by location.
Welcome to Under One Roof MTL, where we are demystifying home ownership 1 week at a time. My name is Robin Flynn, joined as always by Martin Spalding of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Good afternoon, Martin.
Is it me or is this city just completely on fire? The Grand Prix, thank God the Grand Prix starts at 4 o'clock today because we're going to be able to wrap up the show, run home and watch it. I'm going to watch it on my TV. I'm not going to sit in one of those stands. I don't like crowds anymore. But between the Canadians, the Grand Prix, and the Montreal Victoire bringing home the Walter Cup, I mean, this city is a sports dynasty.
Yeah, it's been a week. It has been a week. LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties, are you just soaking in all these incredible sports moments? I mean, first Canadian team to win the Walter Cup in Montreal Victoire. Congratulations to our girls. Watching Marie-Philippe Poulin lift that cup. Woo! What a moment.
I've definitely been taking it all in. Super happy for the Victoire. Super happy for the fact that we still get to enjoy playoff hockey in Montreal this time of year. Even my mother-in-law made a comment to my wife this past week. She's like, Nikki, why is there still hockey going on? I don't understand. Yeah. My wife had to kindly explain because we're making a deep run to the playoffs. It's not usually like this. We understand, but we're actually doing it this year, So she's like, oh, okay, I get it now. But it was a very cute moment we had at the house this week.
I think this team has legs. I think this is not only a one-off. I think for the years to come, we're going to be watching some playoff hockey, hopefully right into June.
100%. Look, we definitely have the right contracts right now, and everybody seems to be doing their part, and the young kids are excited to play and keep the core together, and it seems like they really are prioritizing staying together and playing with their friends, as most young kids would ultimately, as opposed to the big payout, and it's definitely setting us up for some success right now. So tip our hats to all the kids who are, all the players that we have on the team who are making this possible right now.
How about Alex Newhook, pride of Newfoundland?
Oh, yeah.
He was injured for most of the season, so he's well rested. But at Christmas, my nephew and my sister went to go visit my mom in Newfoundland, and who was on their flight? Alex Newhook. So my nephew, who's 10 years old, has a picture of himself with Alex Newhook. So he is just in his glory right now watching this run,
New
which is
number one
fun.
fan. Amazing.
Yeah. Exactly. Okay, let's celebrate all this fun stuff we got going on by giving away some cookies from Felix and Norton. You can visit their store at the Blue Haven Shopping Center, 3705 St. John's Boulevard in DDO. If you're the first person to text in the correct response to 514-790-0800, you will receive cookies from Felix and Norton delivered straight to your door. Our question this week: what are the 3 legal documents that outline the rules and responsibilities in a condo building?
Wow.
What are those 3 documents? That is a tough one.
Where are you? What's going on?
I
mean,
had
we-
something to do with this one.
Yeah.
I may have stepped in and interjected and said, no, we're going to ask for more than one document here.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? We've been doing this show for a while. People have been listening to us, and you should know the answer to these questions if you listen to this show. Okay, what's in the news this week? This is an interesting story. So retirees are putting off their plans to downsize as the housing market slumps across Canada. But as usual, I assume Quebec is a major asterisk here, right, LJ? I mean, I feel like whatever is going on in Canada, Quebec is always a little bit different.
Look, that's definitely the truth, but people have been postponing their plans. I mean, we saw it obviously more so in the last 3 years, from 2022, 23, 24. People were not really quite ready. They didn't want to lose out on any equity they built, so they definitely put their plans on hold. But since last year, realistically, since 2025, everybody who wanted to sell, who had been holding off, has sold. Everybody has gone to the market. Everybody has moved on to the next chapter of life, whatever it may be. Single-family home values were up 6% last year. They were up about 5 or 6% the year before as well. So people are in very solid equity position. So again, Montreal is, we hear the average price in Canada is down across the board, really primarily being driven by Toronto and Vancouver, but Montreal is completely the opposite. And the reality is there's just not enough markets doing well in Canada to bring the average up based on how much Toronto and Vancouver is bringing us down. But we're very robust right now. I mean, again, other than downtown condos, which has been the one sore spot that we've had, multiplexes, single family homes, condos off island in the suburbs are all performing very, very well right now. So yeah.
I was actually surprised because, some of the stats that were in this article, one that really threw me was only 10% of Canadians say they plan to downsize within the next 10 years. And then the next stat that would also surprise me was Canadians aged 65 plus, 57% plan to stay in their homes. And the problem is it's having a domino effect. So economists expected retirees to downsize, which would have increased the housing supply for younger families. Instead, many older homeowners are staying put, which limits the supply of detached family homes for younger families. So you sort of take a step back and you go, why are they staying in their housing? Well, there's a shortage of suitable housing. So many retirees don't want to move into another house that has staircases. They're looking for houses that sort of a ranch house that's found on one floor, or they're looking for homes that are kind of maintenance free, very short supply. They also want to stay close to their families and stay in their communities. So it's another challenge. And then they take a step back and they go, okay, if we sell this house and we buy another house, what are the costs involved? And some of those are pretty high. So you're looking at another welcome tax. You're looking at a realtor commission, which is generally 4 or 5% of the price of the sale of the home. And then you got notary fees, then you got moving costs. So a lot of them are deciding to age in place, and hence we're seeing it in our practice, the increase in demand for reverse mortgages. A lot of people don't have the cash flow necessary to stay in their current homes, hence, but they're confronted with the huge cost of moving. So they say, well, we're sitting on a ton of equity. Why don't we take out a reverse mortgage to subsidize our lifestyle, which would permit us to stay in our homes? So, it's cause and effect. So older people are staying in their homes, less homes for younger people, and also a shortage of cash flow, an increase in reverse mortgages.
It's interesting because I was having this conversation with my father recently because my younger brother moved out about a year ago. The last a chick to fly the coop, if you will. So my dad is living on his own for the first time in his life. He's 64, living in a 5 bedroom house all by himself because we were 4 kids. He had 4 kids. And I asked him, would you ever downsize? Like, would you think about moving? And he joked. He said, I only have a few years left on my mortgage. His payment is like less than $600 a month. He says, I can't afford to move. I can't afford to rent. I can't afford to go anywhere else. This is the cheapest place for me to be. So it's
It's
interesting.
amazing that your father would say, sitting in a 5 bedroom house alone, going, I can't afford to move.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there are a lot of
Interesting.
families who go, please move because we need 4 bedrooms or we need 5 bedrooms.
Yep, exactly. It was a 3 bedroom house. My dad is very, very handy. He added 2 full bedrooms in the basement, and he's in the process of adding another bathroom to the house, renovate. My dad does everything.
You'd also, you could operate a boarding house.
Yes, he
I
should.
could see, I could see your dad flipping pancakes in the morning.
He did every Sunday my entire life. So,
There you go. Being
uh, okay. So another story I want to mention before we go to traffic: Desjardins is warning that the conflict in Iran right now could push inflation back up over 3%. So, what sort of impact would this have on the real estate market? I imagine that we would see interest rates go up if inflation crept up over three.
Now, that would be the expectation, 100%. But there's so much instability in the market that we don't know what the next move is going to be. If inflation does creep up over 3%, the normal move from the Bank of Canada is 100% to increase interest rates to try and keep things down ultimately. But it depends where this is happening. Do we find an alternative for oil? Is it really our cost of good that's going up? Is the cost of just shipping, bringing in food and fruits and everything going up? I think that, like we've seen for the last couple of months, because we don't know yet, because there's so much instability in the market, they're holding off on making any drastic decisions. And 3% could be enough. Yeah, it could be enough to make them move the needle, but they might wait for a little bit more given everything going on right now, given where Canadian home prices are. And like we just mentioned, the fact that Toronto and Vancouver are really, really hurting right now. If you were to add interest rate pressure to it, that would really impact them even further. So I think they're really going to be cautious on what their next move is and kind of play it safe and not do much for the next little while.
The
Interesting.
problem is oil prices feeds into everything, right?
Yeah.
So it feeds into the price of gas, the price of transportation, the price of food, the price of consumer goods. And so if inflation remains high, the Bank of Canada may delay rate cuts or potentially even consider rate increases. So we've already seen it with fixed rate mortgages. Fixed rate mortgages are ticking up right now because they're attached to the Canadian bond yields. And, investors don't like persistent inflation. On the variable rate side, and I think variable rates right now are the bargain because the variable rates have not moved and the discounts off prime are actually pretty aggressive right now. So if
What's
you're
that,
in the
Martin?
market, I'm sorry?
Do you have a little fever or something? Are you unwell? Are you
Am I
encouraging
on
buyers to
well?
go with variable
No,
rates
no,
right
no.
now? Is that what we're hearing?
I've always been.
It's been 2.5 years. I don't think I've ever heard this out of you. One
Yeah,
second. With
I
this much
know.
confidence and this, are
I
you
know.
really
I
encouraging
know.
our listeners to go with a variable rate today?
I know because you can always lock into a fix. You can't do the inverse. And so you know what? I'm the eldest on this show, and I've owned homes over the last 35, 40 years, and I've always been the typical Canadian, 5-year fixed, amortized over 25 years. Don't like to not know exactly what my costs are on a month-to-month basis. But the gap between fixed and variable right now is so great that even if it starts to tick up, you can nip it in the butt by locking into a fixed rate. So short term, I would go completely variable. We've seen some discounts off prime of 75, even 80 basis points. Now you're in the mid threes compared to low fours. That's a significant gap and that's a significant savings. And I don't think the bank's going to move for a while. So if I was to lock in now, I'd lock in with variable and I'd ride it for 6 to 12 months minimum. Maybe I'm getting a little red right now. Maybe I do have fever.
Still to come, LJ is going to explain why the first 10 days after a listing goes live are the most crucial to the selling process. That's coming up after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin. That's Martin. That is LJ. We're with you until 1 p.m. The first 10 days on the market, why they matter more than you think. So, before we really dive into it, LJ, I know you've got a formula for working with new listings on the market, but on average, how long are properties sitting on the market in the Greater Montreal area right now?
In the Greater Montreal area or for our team?
For your team, I would love to know and compare it to everybody else because I know when I sold my house with you, my house was only on the market 16 days.
There you go. So our average as a team this year is 29 days. But the
Wow.
average on the island of Montreal is usually somewhere between 50 and 65 days.
Okay. So that varies, I imagine, depending on the type of property that you are trying to sell, right? I think if my memory serves me well, condos have been a little challenging right now compared to single family homes. So I imagine a condo would sit for longer than a house in Pierrefonds would.
100%. Again, it also depends on price. It depends on condition, how show ready it was. But yes, as a general statement, that's 100% true.
Okay, so let's talk about those first 10 days. We come to LJ Realties. We decide we're going to list our house with you. That first week, house goes up. You got your listing on Centris. You share the link with all your friends. You've got maybe an open house booked. What does that first 10 days look like and why is it so important?
Those first 10 days are critical. Now, what we do is we usually go to market on a Monday. And I like to go to market on a Monday because, first of all, the weekend is past, obviously. It's a fresh week ready to get started. And it gives us that week to market. So if we did any video, if we're launching 3D tours, if we're releasing, obviously, all the photos and putting out as much publicity for the property as possible, we can do that, sending out mailers, etc. And like you just mentioned, we usually will host that open house on that first Sunday from 2 to 4 p.m. or sometime during that weekend, depending on if it's a holiday weekend. Sometimes we play around with the exact time. Now, by having that week ramp up effectively, we can really make sure that we've done everything possible to get as much visibility as possible for your listing, for your home. And in that case, get typically as many buyers as possible to walk through the door and then hopefully get as many offers as possible for you so that you can really get your pick. And then from there, we can move forward with the due diligence process and fulfilling the conditions. Now, we have this one rule, which is called our 10-10-0 rule. And it works very simply. If we don't have in the first 10 days, if we don't have any visits, that's a clear sign from the market, hey, something's wrong with the price. We're clearly not aligned right. If we've had 10 visits on the property and we haven't received a single offer, the market's giving us that same signal. Okay. So if at the end of either of those two things happening, we don't have an offer in hand, we haven't received an offer, even if it's not a very good offer, just an offer period, we need to revisit price. Okay. Now, again, we always do a full check, obviously, full listing audit. Did we make any mistakes on the listing? Did we not mark that it had a garage? Did we say it was a 2 bed instead of a 3 bed? Was there any sort of typo that came through that may have had an impact on it? And again, we look at this obviously when we first launch. We send you a copy of the listing to review and confirm as well. I take another look at it during the week as well, because again, a mistake may have happened. But once we've ruled that out, we've confirmed that no, the photos are good, the marketing was done right, there was nothing that was missed on our end, everything was really launched, we had visibility on the property, we had enough eyeballs on it, because I can see how many people saw it on centrist.ca, on realtor.ca, how many people saw it who are currently working with a real estate broker, who have an automated email set up so that they receive what's available on the market today. And if we've kind of gone through all of these things and their visibility is there, there's no mistakes on the listing, everything's kind of where it has to be, but we don't have visits or we don't have offers after visits, we have to revisit price. And generally speaking, that's going to be a conversation of usually at least $25,000, right? Because we want to get into different price bands, and that's where we're playing with these numbers. So if we're at, let's say, 650, we might have to go to typically at least 625. Sometimes it might be more aggressive. We might have to go down to 600 because really we're not getting any traction, any visibility. We do another audit of what the available listings are that we're competing against. So what are the active comparables? We take another look at the sold comparables in the last 2 weeks, 3 weeks, see if anything changed dramatically that is impacting where the valuation currently sits, and we go from there.
What I find very interesting is when you have buyers who are coming to view the properties, their brokers will send you feedback after the visit, letting you know whether they intend to put in an offer or not. And that feedback is so important because you could be getting tons of visits and they can tell you, no, price way too high, not the right price. But if they're like, no, the price is right, we're just, looking for something with a bigger backyard or whatever, things like that, then okay, maybe we don't need to make a price adjustment, right? Are there other things that you would do before making a price adjustment when a property is getting a lot of interest, but not necessarily offers right away?
I would try and figure out if we're getting the same consistent feedback. Obviously, we want to fix that feedback if it is fixable. If they mentioned that, let's say, I mean, we spoke that in the past, but that there was a smell of cat litter and the clients are allergic, or just you can tell that they like the property, but they left with a bad feeling because of the smell in the property. If there's maybe the house is not very organized and it's distracting from this. If hey, we asked you to declutter, but there is 200 family photos across every single wall when you walk around the property. And while we're there for the visits, because we're always present for the showings of the property, even if the buyers are represented, we see that in the 45 minutes they were in the house, they spent 35 minutes looking at your family photos and only 8 to 10 minutes looking at the actual property. We're going to have to adjust something because as lovely these photos are, they're distracting from the visitors. Humans are all naturally curious. And, oh, do I know this person? Do I know that person? Do I know anybody in any of these photos? It's just you see them and they're walking around and they're focused on this. The same thing happens with people who have huge sports memorabilia collections. You happen to get a sports fan and sometimes it clicks like, oh yeah, I want this as well. But more times than not, they're just like, they're walking through a museum all of a sudden and they're not looking at a property they're trying to buy. And it completely deviates from the focus that we need at that time.
It's interesting because you just mentioned those two things. What are some other mistakes that people did make? I mean, obviously not decluttering, leaving family photos up, not remediating pet odor smells. Are there other mistakes that people typically make?
Look, there's nothing typical. I don't want to kind of generalize, but stuff that we've seen as a whole, that it happens from time to time. Rented properties, the tenants are not usually going to clean up for us. So I've seen all sorts of nightmares, if you will. 3 college students living together. We got pizza boxes. We had one tenant who left a beer can at the door of the washing machine. We believe they were just trying to mess with us at this point. Just like there was stacks of beer bottles everywhere, boxes. So we've seen all sorts of things. Obviously, when it's an owner-occupant property, it's a little bit different. Then it usually comes down to either in a separation case where there's a bit of fighting going on, where they're not working together, where one person's already moved out, the other person doesn't want to leave the house, so they're creating friction on purpose. Stuff like that has been problematic at times. And then beyond that, you have sometimes a single person, a single parent who has to deal with the 2 kids and a pet and prepping everything for a visit. It's hard work, for it to be showcase ready like you see on Netflix and on any TV show and whatnot. It takes a lot of work, a lot of effort, and a lot of time. And if you're working 40 to 50 to 60 hours a week and you've got the kid or 2 kids and the pet, it's really tough to make these things work out. And that's why we sometimes encourage, like, hey, if you can go stay with a parent for the first weekend kind of thing, get the home ready on Thursday or Friday, and we can kind of blast it Friday, Saturday, Sunday, then that'll probably be our best bet. That'll be the least shift in your day-to-day life, obviously, so we try to do that. But even that comes with a big push early on of making sure that the home was prepared properly and priced properly, and kind of everything else has to align so we can try and really go for that blitz on that first weekend and get the offer that we're looking for.
When I'm looking at properties on Centris, I always look at the date that it was posted, the date that listing went up. And when I see that listing's been up for 30, 60, 90 plus days, I'm like, what am I not seeing? What is wrong with this property? That is my instinct. Is that a common thought process with the buyers that you work with, LJ?
100%. The problem, and what most sellers don't get, is that they always say, no, I wanna try our, let's say I suggested we should list at $650,000. That seemed to be fair market value. Like, well, LJ, I really just want to try it at 715. I really thought I'd be able to get 700 for the property. I'm like, I wish I could get you 715. I wish I could get you $1 million for your house. Nothing would make me happier than getting you more money for your home. But the comparables I have here in front of us, between what's active right now and what's been sold recently, I just can't justify it. Can you justify it with these comparables? And they're like, no, but I really just want to try. I really want to try. Okay, if you really want to try, we usually put it together a game plan. If I think there's any world of reasonability, we say, okay, we're going to try your way for the next 2 weeks. If it doesn't work for the next 2 weeks, we will adjust to X price, which we believe is more aligned. Okay, great. But sometimes we do that, and then sometimes the sellers say, well, no, I want to try longer. Okay, how much longer? So we give another 2 weeks, and we kind of play this game for a little bit. And now 6 weeks have passed, and I have to unfortunately tell them, like, hey, I've told you from day one, I've told you for the last 6 weeks now, I'm doing you a disservice. You're doing yourself a disservice. You are burning your listing. And you're like, what do you mean I'm burning my listing? Well, you right now have had it on market for 6 weeks at a price that is unreasonable. And every time a buyer's going to come through the door now that it's been 45 days on market or probably closer to 60, etc., people are going to start wondering, why does nobody else want this house? Why am I the only silly person who's thinking about putting in an offer? What am I missing? What am I not seeing? Are there ghosts in this house? Is it haunted? What's going on here? Why, if nobody else wants it, I don't want it. No. I'm going to wait. I'm going to wait till somebody else wants it. And then nobody makes an offer on this perfectly good house that's just overpriced right now because nobody else has wanted it yet.
Well, if you're not sure if now's the right time to buy a home or maybe sell your home, give LJ a call. He'll help you figure it out. 514-500-4040. Coming up, more of your frequently asked mortgage questions, including some of the biggest mistakes that self-employed borrowers make. That's after the news. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin Flynn with LJ Aguinaga of LJ Realties and Martin Spalding, one half of Fred and Martin Mortgages. Martin, we've had so many frequently asked questions that we've had to add a third segment of frequently asked mortgage questions. So hopefully we can get through them all today. Will there be a part 4 next week, or do you think we're going to get through them today?
I still have a ton of questions, and since we started doing this feature, I've been getting more and more questions. So, we can pick random topics, or we can simply answer the questions that are being asked by the listenership. So, more than likely, we'll go for part 4 because, we only get to about 3 or 4 questions a week, and I've got dozens waiting to be answered.
Perfect. Okay, let's start with this one. What do alternative or B lenders actually do?
Okay, so there are 3 levels of lending in Quebec, Canada. There are conventional, which are the big banks. There are B lenders, and then there are privates. So the B lender is basically the lender that you'll go to when a conventional bank says no to you. They tend to be more flexible. People who have self-employed income, they have credit issues, they have higher debt ratios, GDS, TDS are not within the range of traditional or conventional lenders. So they're commonly used as a stopgap. You don't want to be necessarily with a B lender for more than 1 to 3 years. But we do know some self-employed individuals that just stay with B lenders because they don't want to declare more income. They don't want to pay more taxes. So they're prepared to pay a little bit more for their mortgage because one and the other, they're ahead of the game. But the ultimate goal when you go with a B lender is to migrate back to a conventional lender. So if you've got a credit issue, you've got, whatever problem you have, you in the first year that you've signed with a B lender, the objective is to fix that issue that you have so that at the end of the term with a B lender, you can migrate back to a conventional lender. Why do you want to migrate back? Because there are better rates with conventional lenders than there are with B lenders. The disadvantage with B lenders is, the rate is a little bit higher, but it's nothing astronomical, but there are fees attached. So there are broker fees, and then there are also lender fees. So often we say that it doesn't cost anything to do business with Brett and I. That's true when you're dealing with a conventional lender. When you're dealing with a private or a B lender, there are fees attached.
Okay. So what is the biggest mistake that self-employed borrowers make? You just referenced self-employed borrowers often going to B lenders. What are some of those mistakes they make?
9 times out of 10, a self-employed individual can't qualify with a conventional bank because they're simply not declaring enough income on their annual tax returns. So they're, whether it's a T1 or it's a T4, depending on how they're structured. So lenders base their approvals on declared income. So your tax returns, not what you actually earn or what your business actually earns. So there are other common issues that we find is mixing personal and business expenses and not keeping clean and up-to-date financials. It's amazing that you talk to successful business people and they go, "Can you send us our financials?" "Well, we haven't done our financials in the last 2 years." Or, "Can you send us your T1 generals?" "We haven't filed our taxes yet." And then you get into these conversations where everything is just mixed up. They've got their personal expenses with their business expenses, and the whole thing is just really complicated. So trying to bring that to a big bank is just an impossibility. And hence, often with individuals who are self-employed, we take them to B's, and in that year, we tell them, clean up your mess. Make sure that you run or you do your taxes as well as you run your business. So, good planning with your accountant can make a huge difference when it comes time to applying for a mortgage. So, if it's a bit of a mess and we can't get you approved, but with a conventional lender, we'll take you to a B. And there are some businesses that have cash flow issues, and sometimes we have to take them to a private. But again, when we take them to a private, the objective is to move them to a B, to move them back to a conventional. So it all comes down to how much do you declare, and is that enough for you to qualify with a conventional lender?
How does a reverse mortgage work? You mentioned this earlier in the show, retirees opting to stay in their homes and explore reverse mortgage options. How does that work? Could you lose your home if you take out a reverse mortgage?
No, and that is a misconception, and I think there's a huge difference between reverse mortgages that are in the United States and the reverse mortgages in Canada. Reverse mortgages in Canada are highly regulated. So basically, a reverse mortgage allows a homeowner 55 plus to access up to 55% of the home's value. The beauty of reverse mortgage is you don't have to make no, there are no monthly payments required. Interest builds up over time and is repaid when the home is sold or when the tenant actually passes away. There are a lot of people that want to age in place, and ultimately they only move out when they're moving out in a pine box. So you keep ownership of your home, but there are some conditions. You need to live in the property. You got to keep your municipal and school taxes paid up to date. You got to maintain home insurance on the property, and you got to keep it. You got to keep it in good running order. You've got to upkeep your property. So again, it's a very useful product for many people in retirement. The only downside is as you start to use the equity in your home, and it's the equity they pull out your home that you pay interest on, that interest is capitalized. So your heirs, depending on how long you stay in your property and you're leveraging your equity, may have a little less to inherit at the end of it all. But as my father always said, your heirs have a lot more runway ahead of them, and you earn the right to stay in your home as long as you want. So don't let your kids pressure you and say, "Ma, Dad, don't take a reverse mortgage, sell the house, and we'll set you up somewhere else." If you're happy in your house and you want to leverage some of your equity, stay in place and take out a reverse mortgage.
And let your kids teach you how to use the internet for things. My grandmother wanted to stay in her own home, and we set her up with a tablet. She can do her groceries online now. It's wonderful. So,
My mother-in-law is 102.
wow.
102, and she'll show up at the Christmas party or at the Christmas dinner with her iPhone. So, Martin, I'll take the pictures and I'll send them to everybody.
Love that. Love
Uh,
that.
It's crazy, 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 crazy.
Okay, let's talk about refinancing before we go to traffic. So, is it a good idea to refinance to pay off debt?
Refinancing to pay off debt can be a smart move, but only if you actually improve your situation, not just your monthly payments. It works best when you're replacing high interest debt, credit cards is the best example, with a lower cost mortgage debt. and using to regain the control of your cash flow. So if you're hemorrhaging because you're just making interest payments on a monthly basis and you're sitting on a ton of equity, maybe it's time to refinance, put that all under a mortgage at a lower interest rate. However, if you just let it sit there and continue your spending, you're going to end up worse off because you're going to reload up your credit cards. And over the lifetime of a mortgage, if you consolidated a ton of debt in it, you'll end up paying more interest if you had attacked your credit cards in an aggressive manner on a month-to-month basis. The thing is that if you're in a cash flow crunch, it's a get out of free jail card that you can play once or twice. But it doesn't mean just because you cleaned up your credit cards that you can start spending money again. You need to be disciplined. There has to be a strategy. So, yes, refinancing is a good strategy short term, but you got to behave yourself after you've refinanced and you've cleared off your credit cards.
That's the hard part, right? What do you always see in the movies? The shopaholics, they put their credit cards literally inside an ice block in their freezer so that they can't access them. But you got to make sure that you remove them because now we've got all our browsers that remember your credit card numbers for you. So make sure you clear your browser history as well if you cannot be trusted.
Because generally your income is fixed, right?
Hmm.
But your expenses are what you can control. So you just got to live within your means. Because once you load up your credit cards, you get to a point of no return. And if you don't address it, you're only going to pay interest. The capital will never go down. And if you're in that position, give us a call and we'll run the numbers. And we will tell you straight out, is it worth refinancing or not? And if it is, it has to be part of a bigger strategy. In other words, this is your get out of free jail card that you're playing. But if you go back to jail, you may not have the equity left in your home to do it again. So it all comes down to being disciplined and behaving yourself.
To find out more about what your lending options are, get in touch with Fred and Martin. You can go to their website at fredandmartin.com. Coming up, our property of the week, plus the answer to our trivia question of the week. That's coming up after we check traffic at the CJD 800 Traffic Center. This is Under One Roof MTL on CJD 800. I'm Robin, that's Martin, that is LJ. It's time now for our property of the week. Where are you taking us, LJ?
I'm taking us over to Villeray. Live in one of Montreal's best neighborhoods and have your mortgage paid down by a tenant. 7325 to 7327 Rue Marquette is a stunning Villeray duplex, 250 meters from Fabre Metro, with a stunning custom main unit across 2 floors and an upper unit generating $1,030 a month in rent. The main unit was gut renovated in 2019 by licensed contractors. This property is absolutely fantastic. That unit features 4 bedrooms, 2 upstairs, 2 downstairs, 2 full bathrooms. The cement base on the basement is completely heated by hot water, so it's got radiant heat, which is absolutely fantastic. The backyard was designed by an architect, so we've got an urban architect design the whole backyard. They've added a beautiful parking space back there as well, so this property is really the full package. You are close to the Jean Talon Metro. You've got obviously Metro access, like we just mentioned. Everything you need is just a hop and a skip away. This property is listed at $1.25 million. Call myself or Amanda at LJ Realties. LJ Realties, trusted local results. In terms of favorite places to eat in the area, really there's a plethora of options. I would probably go to the Jean Talon Market and just get a bunch of things at once, obviously. So that would be my go-to.
Amazing. Amazing. Oh, wow. Okay. So can we go lurk this on LJ Realty social media? Is this property on your Instagram? I love looking at the pictures.
Always,
Yes.
of course.
That's my favorite part.
You're not a voyeur, are you?
No, not at all. I'm not even shopping for a house right now, and I still browse Centris in the evenings because I think it's fun.
Everyone's a little bit of a wire. Everyone wants to know what other people's houses look like, the insides, their furniture, the decor, what's the story. Everybody's always curious.
Or I
Why
like to
not
go
we
look
just
in
take walks?
Westmount or Outremont, slide the price to the max, 20 million plus. Go look at the fancy houses.
It was funny. My mother used to go and take walks, and she would literally stop in front of people's houses, and especially at night when the lights were on, so she could actually peek into people's living rooms. And then she'd come home and go, "I think we should change the paint color in the living room. I just saw a blue that is crazy nice." No,
I
wow.
noticed I was looking out my balcony the other day when there was game 1, Habs Carolina, and I'm looking into a bunch of houses on the back end, and every single living room had the Habs game on. You could see all of the windows had Habs
Constantly
games.
flickering.
Yeah, exactly. I thought that was really fun. I was like, well, if my cable ever goes out, I could just look across the street. This is an interesting story that Chris Berry actually sent our way, which is interesting. CJD program director Chris Berry. Did you know that couples are prioritizing home ownership over weddings now? Which sounds financially savvy. I'm very impressed with young people today because weddings are very expensive. When I got married over 10 years ago, we DIY'd the heck out of that wedding. I did so much, assembling of things and cutting costs as much as possible. And it still cost us $30,000 to get married. So you could take that money and put it as a down payment on a condo or a house at this point. So this study said 69% of Quebecers who are planning to get married or know someone who is say they'd be open to instead requesting a contribution towards a down payment instead of a wedding gift. That is fascinating to me. We ended up using the money we got at our wedding on our honeymoon. Maybe we should have saved it for a down payment.
But I thought Quebecers didn't get married.
Typically, we're the shacking up province, aren't we?
Which is why I thought this was kind of interesting because Quebec in particular says they're not getting married. But I think it's really just, I guess, the concept of where the gifts are going to, because it's not even saying that they don't want to get married. They're just saying they're going to use the gift money as a down payment. So don't get me like a raclette maker. Just get me some cash so I can put it towards my down payment fund. It's really the theme here.
That makes sense too, because typically people are living together before they get married now. If you look 50 years ago when you were you getting married, you needed a raclette maker and a toaster and a stove. You needed these things. But now you've already been living together for like 5 years. You have everything. You really don't need these kinds of things. You need cash to buy a house.
Because there's organizing a wedding, and all the fanfare of a wedding between the band, the DJ, the hairdressers, the dresses, the tuxedos, the whole enchilada, and just throwing a huge party and having a great time. And instead of saying, go to Linen Chest and put the $100 in my registry, give me the $100, because the biggest challenge young people have today is coming up with that down payment. Because like you mentioned, most of them are living together, they're paying rent somewhere, and the rent is usually equal to what a mortgage would be. But the barrier is coming up with the down payment. So friends and family, help me buy my home, which is a long-term strategy when you think about it. And you know what? We'll throw a party, it'll be pizza and beer, and we'll all have a great time. But instead of bringing me a toaster oven or a raclette maker, bring me some cash so I can buy a house. And you know what? Once I buy my house, we'll have a second party. It will be a housewarming party in my new house.
That's the best part. I love a good housewarming party. I'm having a housewarming party at my new place soon. It's going to be so much fun. Okay, interesting. I think that's really cool to see that young people are making financially savvy decisions at this point and not just blowing, I think the going rate for a wedding these days is probably $40,000, $50,000. I mean, I could think of a lot better ways to spend that money than on one night.
And who are you throwing the wedding for? Are you throwing it for your parents, or are you throwing it for you and your friends?
Well, if you're throwing it for your parents, they can pay for it.
Oh, can't be up.
Yeah. Okay, let's get to the answer to our trivia question of the week, brought to you by Felix and Norton Cookies. Our question this week was a little bit harder. It was a 3-pronged question. You can thank LJ for that. What are the 3 legal documents that outline rules and responsibilities in a condo building? Those 3 are your declaration of co-ownership, amendments, or bylaws of the immovable. Those are your 3 documents. Did I get them right, LJ?
That is correct.
Excellent. So congratulations to Sandy in Beaconsfield, who obviously listens to this show every week and knew what those 3 documents were. That pretty much does it for us for this week. If you have a question that you want to have featured on the show, you can email us at underoneroofmtl@gmail.com. You can also get in touch with LJ, Fred, and Martin individually. LJ, where do people go to reach you?
The best thing is to go on our website, ljrealties.com, or on all socials with the handle LJ Aguinaga. That's LJAGUINAGA, or LJ Realties with an IES at the end. You can also call or text me at 514-500-4040. And if you're looking to free up some of your time, feel free to reach out to our property management company, The Plex Doctor, to take over and give you back your time. You can reach us at plexdr.com, or you can call us at 514-500-5222. It would be our pleasure to help you out with all your property management needs. 'Tis the season, a lot of maintenance coming up right now, coming after the spring, obviously, in the winter season that we just had. And we'd be happy to step in and help you with that. Finally, if you do want to book a meeting with me directly, you can go straight to meetwithlj.com and book a meeting right there.
Perfect. Martin, where do people go to get in touch with you and Fred?
So there's method to the madness. So we talked about self-employed individuals who are having trouble getting qualified. We talked about reverse mortgages. We talked about people that have challenging files. We manage all of that. Best way to get in touch with us, to have a conversation, to see if we can get you financed or see if we can get you qualified, is going through the website. fredmartin.com, fredmartin.com. You go there. Fred's phone number's there. My phone number's there. My email address is there. Fred's email address is there. And we are happy to have conversations. You know, whether we're going to do your mortgage or not, we're still happy to help, give you a leg up, and help you reach your objectives. So the best thing to do is to book us through the website or to call us directly, fredmartin.com.
Perfect. If you missed anything, you can listen to the show in its entirety on iHeartRadio, Spotify, Apple, wherever you get your podcasts. For LJ, Fred, and Martin, I'm Robin. Have a great Grand Prix Sunday.
Ready or not, summer is coming, and Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance is on now. Right now through May 25th, get up to 70% off everything home at Wayfair. Plus, score amazing doorbuster deals all sale long and surprise flash deals on Memorial Day. We're talking thousands of products at every style and budget. Now is the time to save big on must-haves for your patio, backyard, and beyond. These savings won't last, so don't wait. Shop Wayfair's Memorial Day clearance now through May 25th.
Wayfair, every style, every home.